I can, but it's not on the same computer.
Oh, I see. Right, that's difficult. There you go. Something's happening. That's it.
Right, okay. Sorry about that, everybody, but unfortunately there's a countdown telling you how long you've got left to see the passcode you're trying to copy, and it is covering the last letter of the passcode.
So apologise to everybody about that, and those of us who are joining, we'll probably the stream runs about a minute behind. We are at agenda item 6, which is the public forum. And whilst you were trying to sort that out, Colin, Charmaine Slade did ask a question. So Charmaine, could I just ask you to restate your question, please?
Yes, you can. I'd like some clarification, please, about the change of plan for the late night shopping evening, December the 3rd.
Okay, well, okay, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for joining the meeting, taking the time to join us. I appreciate that you may be here because of the post that you saw that announced that stuff was cancelled. And I can understand if people are annoyed about that because it was something that is obviously regrettable that we weren't able to continue to put on the event as we originally planned. Unfortunately, I think that the post rather gave the impression that there wasn't a particularly good reason and it was just COVID. But if I can explain that the problem we had is that we need a certain number of stewards to be able to put on our fireworks event and other events safely. What COVID has done is two things. First of all, it requires us to change the usual layout of the fireworks in order to provide a larger frontage for people to watch the fireworks. And the government advice is that we should have significant staffing and additional infrastructure in order to facilitate that. Now, in all honesty, we have about 6,000 people turn up to the event normally, and it's our assessment that that would be the minimum we could expect for the event on the 3rd, because we know that all around us, other towns have been cancelling their events. So the perfect storm, and you'll recognise this, it's COVID keeps doing this again and again, is that it presents you a problem and then scuppers a solution. And the solution we normally have is that we get stewards from uniformed youth services such as the Army or the Air Cadets, etc. But because of the lockdown caused by COVID, they simply weren't there with a long enough lead time that's necessary. You can imagine Ministry of Defence in terms of the protection they put in place for the young people who are members of their armed services. They require an incredibly long lead time to be able to book those stewards to be able to help. And of course, at the time, they weren't even meeting because of the lockdown. So we only have 12 trained stewards available. With 6,000 people, that's a ratio of 1 steward per 500 people, which is massively adrift from a 1 to 100 ratio, which, to be honest, we could do with better than that if we're going to try and shift a crowd that historically they know precisely where to stand and watch the fireworks, and we're going to tell them you need to shift along. So in actual fact, even if we didn't have the problem of trying to spread the crowd, and COVID had stopped full stop on the 1st of October, we actually still would not have had enough trained stewards to put on the event as it ordinarily happens. So, yes, the Post was accurate in terms of saying that it was COVID that led us to the decision, but COVID meant we did not have enough stewards, and that's the reason we cannot safely put on the fireworks display. We weren't actually planning on making an announcement before the weekend. We had told councillors on Thursday that we would come to the conclusion it wasn't possible to put on the event, and we provided all the background information to them. But the intention was, coming out of that discussion and responses from councillors, is that tonight, Nick Keeble, who's our events organiser, has just come from a meeting with Heart of Haverhill, the representatives of business in the town centre, and to discuss what we can do for Family Christmas Night, and how we can redeploy our resources that we don't use on Family Christmas Night to make the best of the following day on the Saturday. But of course, because of everything that's happened over the weekend, everything has all got mixed up. So we're at the point here where we're at a meeting which was supposed to take place before any announcements about the Christmas event at all. And instead, we're obviously explaining to people how we came to this particular point in time. So I hope that makes sense to you.
Yes and no. The no being, I think that from what you've said, all the information was to hand, that you could have made this kind of announcement earlier. My other point is related to your very last comment. Where are we at now with the Saturday? The reason I ask that is that I'm part involved with a very large nativity program on the Saturday. Are we still allowed to do that, or have we got to wait for further guidance?
Well, Nick is on the call and he's the event organiser, so he can talk to you about that particular point. But the difference between, people have asked, I know people ask the difference, how come Saturday during the daylight is okay and Friday evening isn't? And the actual Family Christmas Night shopping part of it doesn't require very many stewards and spreads out the crowds quite fully anyway. It's the fireworks in particular and the fairground to a certain extent that condenses everything in to a point where we have a legal responsibility to have enough stewards to properly marshal a crowd, whereas of course, strictly speaking, when the people are just simply milling around in the high street, that's not a crowd. But I'll let Nick explain what's happening on Saturday.
Okay, so just one. So can you just confirm then that the late night shopping is continuing?
I'll let Nick do that because he takes point in all of this and he can answer the questions much more exactly than I can because he has the details.
Okay, thank you.
You want me to do that now?
I think it might be useful for the public who are here to actually do that bit now, rather than make them sit through a whole load of the meeting to get to the answers they want now.
Okay, so what I can report is I have been earlier on a Zoom meeting with the Heart of Haverhill, who represent the town centre traders who were our partner on the 2019 version of Haverhill Christmas Night, and were due to be our partner again in 2021. Outside of the conversations about exactly what is and isn't going on, they have asked whether the town council would be willing to partner on a version of Family Christmas Night, which includes the majority of what would have normally been there, or trying to get that, but minus the fireworks display and minus the large aspect of the fairground rides, so that they could produce an event which involved the traders, the local charity, the local communities in terms of some entertainment if they were available, and the street entertainers with late night shopping, and having the town council staff who would have been at the event anyway as stewards. The expectation is that the numbers of attending that event would be far fewer than would come out if the fireworks were on the end. And a lot of the chat about the stewarding was getting people from the town up to the fireworks. There is only one road up there, and that was one of the other big concerns there, in terms of a large group of people herded close together from one place to another in a very short space of time. So Heart of Haverhill are very, very keen to reinstate the family Christmas night in a form which can be delivered. And I would say that it could be realised. We still have the road closure application, which can be amended. I found that out today. The road closure application, which obviously was in to include a large bit of the town, can be taken down. We still have the infrastructure in place, and we still have some of the groups who are wanting to participate before. So the will is there in order to put on a family Christmas night celebration in a revised form. I hope that answered your question.
I do have a specific.
Sorry, let's go back to Charmaine. So you keep moving around the screen. Yeah, I've got. If you got anything else to say, and then I'll get on to Councillor Marks.
I do have one more thing to ask Nick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
Nick, you are familiar with what the proposition was with Haverhill Silver Bandit. Are we allowed to get on with that?
Yes. The answer is yes. We may move it along. We might slightly revise the times, but the proposition for having a band and carol singing is realisable.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks very much.
Are we talking about on the Friday night or the Saturday, Nick? Just to confirm.
That's on the Friday night. That's what Charmaine was proposing. There is a second event on the Saturday,
yeah,
which again is realisable. The numbers involved are not that we can't steward it safely, and we can't make that happen as well.
Right, Councillor Marks.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just, obviously the disappointment from the public is palpable, and I think COVID has been a very, very long, drawn-out affair, and people want things to look forward to, particularly the younger members of our community. And I accept all of the limitations. I'm majorly at risk, and for those who don't know, I had a stroke last week, so I am now added to my problems. That said, I'm very passionate about the fact that, we need to give something to people. We need to be supporting our community. And I just wonder, really, rather than this sort of entrenched, this won't happen, which is very bland and feels very bad for people, if we could give them something to hope for. I noticed that Nick's talking about putting some things on. The firework display is something really important. We missed it last year. I'm not suggesting that we do it on that night and on that time. I accept that the numbers of COVID are very bad at the moment, but I just wonder whether we could make some sort of offering even into the new year for them, to say, look, if the COVID numbers dropped, can we make some sort of offering that would just make the public feel a bit better? And this isn't about making them feel better about us. It's making them generally, giving them something to look forward to. I know talking the other night to Paul, and Paul's looking at putting lots of events on this year, which I know are tremendously well supported, and they are very uplifting. I just feel we can't really, it's very, very hard for the public to get nothing. So anything we can do will be really grateful. And certainly the firework display is something, I hate them personally, but the public love them. So if we could do something. And the final point I would make is, whilst I accept your point about stewards, there are other people who are trained stewards, including myself. I'm an trained event manager and trained fire marshal. You don't always know people's backgrounds. And I didn't really notice that there was any advertisement went out to ask people if they would like to support that event by being a steward. So perhaps we could look at it in the round and be a little bit more proactive about doing it. I fully understand the reasons why you're having to look at this more critically. Thanks.
Colin?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for that, Councillor Marks. I'm probably the opposite of you as far as fireworks are concerned. I've held a pyrotechnician's licence for 30 years and been firing for probably 40-something years. So, I like a good fireworks display. The difficulty we have is the location particularly, and as Nick described, in terms of shifting a crowd along. There are other places in Haverhill where it's potentially possible to hold a fireworks display. It's not our land, of course, so we can't just announce it. But it's nowhere near the town centre, and so all the dynamics are different. And clearly, we weren't going to be able to hold a fireworks display somewhere else in Haverhill when at the end of the day we're inviting people into the town centre. So it's not impossible that a fireworks display could be put on. And in terms of trained stewards, you've marked your card now. We know it. I rather think I saw an email from Nick asking for lots of volunteers, but it's we send out lots and lots of emails to our councillors, and you get emails from other councils too, so you may have missed it. But certainly, I mean, one of the things I think we're going to need to look at, and was a plan that we had pre-COVID, when we were first talking about the volunteer centre, is to develop our own team of event volunteers, members of the community who would quite enjoy being the steward of fireworks display, or at any of our other events. Or, for instance, back in 2019, we were talking about the potential for the 2020 Women's Tour as a launch pad for a set of community stewards. So we would love to explore that through the volunteer centre, to have a kind of standing army of volunteers who were trained and would be willing to turn out to do these sorts of events. Because I'm quite sure that in a town of 27,000, we can find enough volunteers who are willing to be trained and turn out to steward these events.
May I just make one comment here, John? Just that if you were holding the firework display as an independent event, you wouldn't have that surge of people. And I know that surge too well, because I normally bring the ambulance up through the middle of it for you. And it is a big surge of people. But you wouldn't have that surge if you ran it as an independent event. So just a thought, Colin, anyway. Thanks.
No, you're absolutely right. It's actually far easier. I mean, where people put on events where they actually own the land and can fence it, and they can ticket it and control numbers, and therefore also bring in money to pay to have stewards there as well. It's a totally different kettle of fish to the event that is organised normally for Christmas. I agree with you 100%.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk from the public forum? Most people I can't see, so if you've got anything. Councillor Furman. You're muted, Paul.
There you go. Is it better? Sorry. I understand that the round table of not before, they didn't last year, no, obviously, but with the centre around the houses, that's all finished now, is it, with the sleigh?
I haven't heard anything.
Yes, it is, John. It has all finished. I saw Jerry the other day, and they have got rid of the sleigh, I'm afraid, because if they hadn't, I was rather hoping we might be able to buy it, but they've got rid of it, I'm afraid, Paul.
I know that, John, and I was told that it was off to the town council.
Sorry, what from the town council, Paul?
I was talking to Jerry the other day, and they said before that they had offered the sleigh before they give it another community, offered the sleigh to the town council. They didn't want it. Is that true? Or is that I guess so?
I personally am not aware of that. And
no,
Colin,
I don't. Well, it's who they talk to in the town council. I'm not personally aware of any approach.
No,
it's just another thing the town's lost for the kids, and that is a bit of a shame, really.
Yeah. Councillor Martin, I don't know if you still got your hand up, by the way. Okay.
That's a legend hand on top of it.
I know. Right, okay. Got no more public. Obviously, public are more than welcome to stay if you want to for the rest of the meeting. That's fine. Right, so let's move on to item number 7A, reports from the Arts and Leisure Manager. I lost you again, Nick. Oh, there you are. Moved around. Down to you, Nick.
Thank you. The Christmas events programme is part of this book report, but I'll just quickly run through. The Arts Centre, when I spoke to the committee last, it was hard times there. We were finding it very, very tough. It's gradually getting better in terms of persuading people to come out and showing them that we've got a safe place for people to come in terms of, mask wearing and bits of space that when we can offer them that as well. So we have had a number of events now which have had audiences of 100 plus and have received good feedback from those. There's an example there really of how things have changed. Neil Sand's shows always sell the same amount of tickets. In September, it sold 47. And to date, when I put this together, it sold 124. So you can see the change there. And that is amongst our senior citizens as well. Again, when I wrote this, Panto sales were up. They have taken a little bit of a slow. Last week, by the end of last week, they hadn't quite got to where we would like them to be. So we're just seeing whether that's a little blip or whether that's going to the latest news about COVID rates around here, whether that's had a bit of a hit for us. But generally, we're satisfied with where they are. We had sold 3 days worth of pantomimes to local schools, but unfortunately, because of the Unity Trust now not mixing year groups in inside spaces, we are not able to. The schools are not able to come to the pantomime, so that's a bit of a blow for them and for us, really. So that's very unfortunate. And the other thing really there is not from an arts centre, but just film. It's improved. Bond is out, and that's releasing other films. Really, Bond is not going to do fantastically for us because that's not really our type of film. But that the advantage to Bond is it's going to release other films, and hopefully people have been to see Bond, got confidence in going to the cinema, and are now going to come back to more films. The other part at the bottom here is really we've been a COVID vaccination centre. We've had 2 pop-up clinics. They are far busier than anyone envisaged. The first one, we had to make some pretty urgent decisions to try and help people be a bit more comfortable rather than queuing outside. The second one, we also asked the service to get some volunteers in, and which they did, and it ran far more smoothly. And more than, I think somewhere around 320 people were jabbed last Friday, which is big figures for one of those pop-up clinics. It's not necessarily hitting what was originally intended for, and that does seem to be the point. We're getting more than 10 phone calls a day at the moment about getting jabbed in Haverhill. And I know it's not really an art and leisure bit, it's taking up a lot of our time to do this, and people are very, very confused. They're being told that there isn't that facility in Haverhill, they need to go to Long Melford, or they need to go elsewhere. So there is another clinic planned for the Arts Centre on Friday the 19th of November, and we will carry on those as far as we can before we can't give the venue because we go into Panto. So that is an issue that councillors might need to just be aware of, that we're very, very busy on some Fridays. We've got the biggest queues that we can possibly have. Second thing, Halloween Trail, which we put on successfully in the Scouts and Guides site on Friday, October the 29th. We had just over 2,300 people safely get round in the course of the evening, and very positive feedback. From the littlies who loved having their pictures taken with witches, to the teenagers who came around later and who screamed their heads off. It was a very effective evening. It's always very popular, and lucky enough to work with a very creative person who can make astounding atmospheres and some quite exciting things go on. So I'm really pleased with how that went.
Nick, sorry, can I just interrupt one sec? Colin, did you want to just mention what you just...
Sorry, Nick, to interrupt your flow. Councillor Furman, I want to apologise. The very last comment you made when you just moved on from the discussion about the sleigh and you mentioned the rounds, just suddenly rung a bell. I just searched back through emails, and the roundtable contacted us in May this year to asking to discuss it. And we suggested that they try Reach as a charity that might be able to raise significant funds. And that was back on the 20th of May. And we didn't hear back from them after that. So I apologise for misleading the meeting. We did get in contact with them, and we suggested they contact Reach.
Okay, sorry, Nick, if you want to carry on. Sorry to interrupt.
So the women's tour, the cycle event with came to Haverhill, very successful event. It was a multi-agency, really. Lots and lots of different organisations got involved in that. And there was a couple of comments from people sort of saying they can't believe that event came to Haverhill. The town council's input really was the entertainment, which went down very well. We also provided logistical support, staffing, and local knowledge, and that was, pointed out that having that made it an all the more successful event. We had the decorated bike display as well, which went down very well in the town beforehand, and the feedback from the organiser, Sweet Spot, and some of the other people high up in that said it was one of the most successful stages that they'd ever had, just in terms of atmosphere, community participation, and just general wow, really. So it was a really great event. And I think it showed people that Haverhill, when it really pulls together, it can put on something fantastic. I'll take things at the end if people want to comment. That's right. So Remembrance Parade is on this Sunday, on the 14th of November, starting at 10:15 from the car park behind the Arts Centre. We hope that all councillors have received correspondence about how they can attend and COVID safety of this event. We think there'll be about 200 people in the parade, but all of those groups have received information about how to keep COVID safe as well. And the service is going to be live streamed again for those that can't make it. We have got the fire service as well. They're going to be providing a fire appliance for the parade, and we're really, really grateful to the Salvation Army for providing the drummer. We lost our band, and so we have got a drummer to beat out which is fantastic. The next part on here is the Christmas events program, which really I suppose forms the substantive part of the discussion this evening. It was going to be, this is what we can do this year. So this is where some discussion can start. This Christmas light switch on, which we have scheduled for the 18th of November. We're scaling it back slightly. We were going to take up some of the square with a walkway, but we need as much space as we possibly can. So history shows us that, 500 to 1,000 people is probably the maximum that we would ever expect at this event. And we know that we're working with a site that can hold more than 2,000 people comfortably. And we have a good number of stewards. We actually have more stewards available for that than we did for Haverhill Town Council stewards and for Family Christmas Night. So we will have Councillor Liz Smith, the Mayor, will be turning on the lights with Haver the Dane. And there is a fire show as well, and some community lanterns. We were looking at a lantern parade, but again, we've scaled that back. But we want to acknowledge that the work that the young people put in on making the lanterns. If we're putting the Friday night back in terms of working with Heart of Haverhill and Family Christmas Night, we will also include, put that into the Saturday as well, when we'll be enlivening the town with characters who were previously in the Winter Wonder, the Winter Kingdom. So it's not going to be a separate event, but we're going to be integrating that into the Saturday to make it more of a day spread out amongst the town, again with entertainment. So we're going to have 2 days, and that also incorporates the Makers Market on the Market Square. And there is also, as Charmaine Slade said, there's a walking nativity event on that day too. And then we have got entertainment every Saturday from the 20th of November through until Christmas on Saturdays. There's just a little bit on there about the Christmas light scheme. I did send around an update earlier on. The majority of it is up. It hasn't been the easiest of building scaffold. With Scaffold City at the moment, I don't know if you noticed, we've actually got 5 lots of scaffolding in town at the moment. 2 very big ones mean that we won't be able to have the full display up, and we've had to shift things around, but we're working with a new company who are quite agile about this, making suggestions. So we will have a switch on that day with the new lights display, which I hope will be popular. Nearly coming to the end there, really. Queen's Platinum Jubilee, we haven't made any progress. That will rest with their group who plan the armed forces. The Town Council have always facilitated that group, so we'll see where that goes. YAG, the Young Person's Mental Health Strategy, is moving on apace, and the group is meeting regularly and putting that together. And as Colin said, there'll be another meeting of the main YAG to be called soon. And I just thought I'd put in what my focus is. As John said, I'll be with the Town Council after December. So it's with the changes in the changes in remembrance and adjusting to all of the other Christmas stuff. It's my plan has kind of gone out of the window slightly, but really it's delivering the outdoor events, programming the Arts Centre as far as we possibly can, getting information for a suitable handover, and then clearing up my lovely desk, which most of you might have seen previously. In terms of outdoor dates for 2022, for the outdoor events, I can pencil those in. Again, I haven't got a lot of steer as to which events the council might want to put in and how they will be delivered. And the last bit of this really is just a thank you from me. I've worked for the council for a long time now, and I just think that they're one of the most forward-looking councils in terms of making people smile and making people happy by giving them opportunities to celebrate their community. Really, I think it's quite a special town and a special job that I've had to do. And whatever the council has been, they've consistently supported it. So that's been an amazing thing. So I can take questions on any of those. Thank you.
I'm going to take advantage before anyone else does. Let me just, I'll do the last bit first, Nick, which was actually to express my personal thanks to you. I haven't known you that many years, and others have known you a lot longer. The work you do in extraordinary times and like now, of course, And I know it's not been easy the last few years. It's been extraordinary. I don't know how your head managed to hold so much in it at one time. Maybe that's why the old locks of, been pushed out, if you like, out of the head. So I would like to, I know we've got an event coming up at the end of the month, or beginning of next month, but I would like just us to put it on formal record about that. So thank you for that. Just a couple of things on the actual thing. Before, no, actually, I'll tell you what, let me, I did see Councillor Miller-Jones put her hand up, sorry. We go first.
Yeah, also big thanks to Nick for everything you've done. And I hate to respond with something sort of, not very positive, and I know that everybody's already probably quite aware that I have concerns about this, but I am concerned about the fact that the panto is still going on. And I just wondered what it will take for, how bad is it going to get before we rethink that? I know that, everybody is keeping an eye on things, but it does concern me, talking about how the Unity Schools partnership aren't having the year groups together. That to me is a really sensible thing. And when you're talking about the low sales, my thoughts are good. It's much safer if you only have a few people in the auditorium. And I know it's, it would be very disappointing to all of the people involved in the panto in every sort of arena. I understand how disappointing it would be to cancel it for everybody, for the audience, for the actors, for the organisers. But I still just feel like having a bunch of people all together in an auditorium is not sensible. Also saying that we may then have to stop doing the vaccination clinics in order to, make space for the panto, that seems to me like not really the right priority at this time.
Okay, thank you. Indoor theatre hasn't been focused on as a great spreader at the current time. It's mainly being spread in schools and care settings is what the big understanding is that care settings and schools are the main spreaders, especially in the Haverhill area. The difference between an unregulated event and an event of this sort is that we can communicate with the number and have a knowledge of the people who are attending. We will be asking people to take a test before they come to the pantomime. We will be asking them to take other precautions in terms of mask wearing when they're not seated as well. So we can actually put those precautions in place when we invite the people into our centre. We're putting the safety of the staff, the cast, and of the audience at the forefront of what we do. But there is that difference in that we can ask them to do something, and it is going to be in their interest to do that.
But when they are seated, it's going to be a whole load of school children in there, isn't it? Who are the people who at the moment seem to be spreading it the most. And if you've got an audience full of children, it just, I don't know, it just, and, not wearing masks while they're seated however many feet from each other, breathing for a long amount of time near each other. It just seems like a recipe for a big increase in numbers.
But as I can say, that's kind of where we are. We're confident that we can make it as safe as we can. We are a relatively small space. There are going to be some massive theatres which are selling thousands of seats. It does feel as if, on the call with the other theatres the other day, panto sales are the most healthy that they have been for a lot of years. So it just seems that the people do want to come out to come to an entertainment, and if we can make them feel that they can do it as safely as they possibly can, that's what we're tasked with doing.
I was looking at the figures today. It was interesting that the headline news last week was Haverhill topping Suffolk. In fact, they're not now. Their figures have actually dropped over 50% in the last 5 days. So hopefully that's a good downward trend. that's what we want to see, is get it down to what it was 2 or 3 months ago. Colin.
Chair, I think your point you just made illustrates the fact we just have to keep a dynamic view going on. I can understand that some people will be very much in Councillor Miller-Jones' camp in terms of concerns. Others will feel much more right at the very end of the spectrum, quite gung-ho about the whole thing. And we see that as we go around supermarkets, etc. But there's this sort of Damocles hanging over us. We will constantly be reviewing the situation. And Nick will tell you, in terms of all our planning, none of us know whether we'll get to the end of panto season, because we don't know. As you say, as the chair just described, the figures that we were discussing last week and the figures we're discussing this week are very different. Things could change. We will, at the moment, the risk assessments are saying we can still do this, and therefore I think, building on what Councillor Marks said about the importance of hope and of joy, we need to continue. But there is a new variant out there that is being assessed. I don't know what's going to happen with that. It's being in the newspapers already. We don't know what that's going to bring. So who knows? By the time we get to panto, we might be free to have a community sing-song, or we might all be sat at home for 7 days. COVID is doing that to us all the time.
Can't see anybody else with their hands up. Sorry, Councillor Furman, you can see it now.
Question for Nick. On the late night shopping on the Friday, is the market relocated that day, or is it the same place, or what's actually happening?
The plan is the market will be on the market square. We won't be relocating the market. So they'll stay where they are, and we'll have the opportunity to stay in the evenings they wish to.
Yeah. Also, another thing, Nick, I don't know, I suppose I asked you a little while ago, Disco Kitchen asked that they come down and do a little, they asked Sharon from the Saturday on the 11th of December, they come down and do a bit of music, and I don't know if Sharon's run it by you yet at all? No,
not yet, but yeah, I'm sure we welcome
yes,
them on
bit more entertainment town for the kids, and that, isn't it? Oh, and that's it, mate. Thanks very much. Thanks for your help for all we do's over the years. All the help you give me since 2006.
Yeah,
raise that money to charity. Thanks for your help, Nick.
Yeah, I know you've got to go down to London, Paul. Are you staying, or
what's happening, Nanny?
We've got the rest of the agenda to go through. So
yeah, I'm staying.
That's fine. Councillor Marks.
Very quickly, taking up the comment about the panto numbers, you must remember that although we've been running the vaccinator clinic on Friday, we had 80 people sitting in the auditorium, waiting for their vaccinations. People don't realise that whilst there's a queue outside, the queue extends to inside the building, up the stairs, and then there's 80 people sitting in the auditorium. So, I'm not quite sure the difference really of people sitting in an auditorium, they all had their masks on, waiting for their vaccine, or sitting waiting for a panto. On the basis that we can't have lots of people sitting in there, I guess we shouldn't have those people sitting waiting for the vaccination. But it worked remarkably well. I've not heard any complaints back from the way it was run last week, and in fact all we've heard is a huge amount of positives. So I'm kind of in favour of the panto. I just feel mental health at the moment is a nightmare, and you have to balance it. When a doctor gives you a drug, it's the balance of risk, and I think this is kind of similar. So as long as we take really calculated and careful consideration of those risks, and like Nick says, hand gelling and masks, and maybe encouraging people to keep them on when they're seated, I think it's a great risk. But we do need to think, the vaccinator clinic did go ahead, but we had got a huge amount of people sitting upstairs.
Mason.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to support what Councillor Marks is saying. I think the measures that Nick is talking about, requiring people to have a test, and as a teacher, I work in a school, and I have an awful lot of close contact with students, And for measures that we have in place, it is possible to deal with quite large crowds. And yes, COVID is in the school, but it's not out of control. And I think the measures in place that Nick is talking about should make it perfectly viable. I mean, to be honest, I should declare a little bit of an interest because my wife is involved in the Panto, so sorry about that, Chair. But as I say, the talking about gives me the confidence to feel that it should be manageable.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mason. Just very quickly, just go back to what I've just written down during your report, Nick. I know that the organisers of the bike race, where it's called, can't remember. Anyway, they mentioned about having a post-race effect report. So this is just purely for future discussion. It'd be nice to, when we get that, to see what it actually says, how it did really benefit the town. Question for you, Nick, is, you know, I donated a bike. We didn't just throw them away. I assume they're around somewhere, giving them or something. So go ahead.
In terms of the bikes, 9 Jars has taken a number of them and actually are displaying them in their outdoor area. So they've taken a number of them, and that will be a holding place. We may, and a couple of people actually asked to either take them back or keep them in their shops, because they rather like them as well. So we have made use. We haven't just thrown them away.
No, as long as, you know, if we're going to do it, let's recycle them for further use. I would like.
Yeah. Any ones which don't will go back to whence they came.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, can I just ask a question? Is that, am I taking it that the council are saying yes to the proposed events programme, which is a switch on the 18th, the Friday night working with the Heart of Haverhill, the Saturday night which incorporates elements of the Winter Kingdom, and the Saturday entertainment up until Christmas? Can I just get a steer that is what the council are looking for?
Well, obviously we're only a working party, so we can't actually make any formal thing. And but by the time we do get around to that, it's going to be too late anyway.
Yeah, but it's not extra budget.
No, I understand that. No, that's fine. That's fine. My only thought was, everyone keeps talking about Heart of Haverhill representing businesses, but the businesses don't know about Heart of Haverhill, a lot of them who you speak to. That's what worries me slightly, because the businesses themselves are obviously very supportive of having that family night. Let's not call it late night shopping, it's not that anymore. So can I, before you get on to that, sorry, before Councillor Smith, let me just get the other things sorted out. The Makers Market on the 4th, the Saturday the 4th, we're trying to move as much of it, or certainly bits of it, into the high street as well, to make up the, because we've got big gaps between the existing market, and they're becoming very separated, and they're becoming 2 separate markets. So that may be that we can fill them with any charity stalls perhaps and things like that. But I know Sharon and I have been speaking from my being the chairman of the market review group about how we can make sure they both work together on that one. The vaccination side of things, just to let you know, I did have a couple of complaints on Saturday from people on the Friday one about the queue, particularly people who were disabled, having to stand around for a long time. It's not the town council's fault, of course. It's down to the resources given over to that. And the only other facetious thing I was going to say is I hope Councillor Dave Smith is practising on his stilts to accompany the mayor on with Haver the Dane. Thank you.
John, forgive me jumping in here, but we did try, you know, where we had people who were disabled, I did bring them into the cafe. I actually brought them in. I didn't check, you know, they still had to queue unless they were really, really, really poorly, and then we pushed them to the front. But, you know, we did try to bring them into the cafe. So obviously I couldn't be everywhere all the time.
No, it's not. No,
so,
I mean,
you know, if I missed people, I apologise for that.
We were quite late in the day asking for volunteers, because when I got an email from whoever it was at the NHS, I forwarded it on to Jill Moss, our volunteer, and then she got working on it and started finding people.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I got told Thursday night that I was the lead volunteer with no volunteers. So at 9 o'clock on Thursday night, I had to quickly whip round and find a load of volunteers, and so it was really quite challenging. And you know, I'm hoping we're now looking to get a kind of group of volunteers so that we don't get in that terrible position again, because that wasn't fun, I can tell you.
That's fine. Councillor Dave Smith, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I think I was going to say something else nice. It's a long time ago now. Yeah, I just say to Nick, you know, if he feels having taken the necessary advice that he can put on these events safely, then I'm happy to support them. And obviously, likewise, if you don't feel it's safe, then I would support you in that decision too. So whatever you think is achievable safely, I'm happy to go along with.
Is anybody dissenting from that view? It's probably the easiest option. I cannot see anybody.
Chair, for the minutes, it would be useful to have a proposer and a seconder and a show of hands. I appreciate it's a recommendation, but you have 10 out of the 16 councillors anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. I saw Councillor Marks first. Sorry, someone else put a hand up. I missed everybody else. Councillor Mason, there you go. So all those in favour, please show. Can't. Sorry, there's my hand. Sorry, can't see myself. Lovely, thank you very much. Is that okay, Colin? Keep going. And thank you, Nick, for that. I appreciate it. And you've got 4 hours till midnight. You've got to start working on it. You know. Lovely, thank you very much. Right, we move on to 7B for Bravo, the youth skills report. You've got the report from Karen Chappell about what Dan, her and
Catherine.
I was trying to remember, sorry, I forgot her first name. Catherine working up the zone. Any questions at all on that? Councillor Mason.
Yes, sorry, my hand was up. Okay. It was prior to we moved on to a different topic, so I didn't get to ask my question. But if you're wanting to move on, I'm willing to take it down.
No, very quickly. If you want to.
Okay.
Nick,
just
on. If you. Oh no, sorry, you're still there. Sorry.
Okay, just really quick question. It's about communication. How are we going to go about making sure that the public are now fully aware of the change of events? That obviously presents quite a challenge. I have had some comments that Heart of Haverhill aren't very necessarily very good at responding to communications. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's a comment that's come my way. But with any of the changes that we're now making, how are we going to go about actually getting the message out there and it being a success? Thank you.
Just so, I mean, normally when I speak to or email Julie, the town centre manager, she responds in a few minutes. So in that respect, assuming they're emailing the right people, of course, if they're emailing somebody off the like the One Haverhill website, there's no guarantee that will actually get to her. So, sorry, did you want to say something, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, yeah, I've found Julie very responsive. She has just had a week and a bit off ill, so that may be a reason why somebody might not respond if they're off sick. I mean, I've got a meeting penciled in with Julie for first thing in the morning so that we can work out exactly what we're going to say the event is, so that we can make clear what we've got. We've got Sarah Marsh in the office primed and ready to go. I've got Dave Goodham getting hold of Steve Barton so that he can possibly change the story, because the headline that would be going in is a lot worse than the headline that can go in. So we're primed and ready to go, and we will just feed it out as quickly as we can via the different media channels that we have available. That's the only answer I can give, is that the fact that we will try and put the coherent program of events together to say what we are doing rather than what we're not doing. And that was the plan in the first place.
Okay. I lost you. Oh, you're gone. Councillor Mason. Right, so going back to the youth skills report. once again, I enjoy reading the case studies at the end, because I think they're the most pertinent part of the whole story, because it brings it to life. I know a couple of young people of that age who are not only suffered because of COVID, but suffered because of mental health issues around anorexia. And it's very pertinent, this sort of stuff. So any questions at all on the youth skills report? Any comments even? No. Okay, let's move on to 7 Charlie, 7C, the zone and youth work side of things. Sandra and Sue and the team, as it were. Again, any questions at all on the zone? The only thing I was going to mention, and we need to keep an eye on it, is the energy costs there, the electric energy costs, because for some reason they've gone up a lot. I know there's more stuff going on, but it is quite a high thing, just what I remember of it. I think it's all pretty the on the spot van is back on the road now. We changed the battery on it, so it actually can start it. That was a good start, ready for the winter. So any comments at all on it? Colin, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, if we can just record our thanks to you, Chair, for having a look at that battery for Sandra, that was appreciated.
Oh, well, not a problem. Better put the expenses in, actually. I know, don't tell me. Right, 7D for Delta, the Have You project with Michelle Brace. Any comments? You had the other paperwork with it, lost it. The support podcast and engagement project. Any comments on what Michelle does? I do wonder whether it might be worthwhile, Colin, whether we ought to have whether it's in this meeting or another meeting, a briefing from Michelle. It's been a while since we've had anything, just to bring everybody up, because I'm conscious that we have these reports and often nobody actually asks any questions, and I don't know whether that's because they don't understand what's going on, or they just don't have any questions. And that's not criticism of anyone.
I think she'd appreciate that, Chair. She is obviously the lone worker on this particular project, and the original expectation, which was when it launched around about March 2020, was that it would launch into a world where there'd be lots of young people doing things, and she would be effectively sifting through and putting up online the contributions. But she really has, for obvious reasons, over the last 20 months or so, really had to keep the momentum going personally. So I had a one-to-one with her this morning, actually, and it was, I think she would really appreciate getting to talk to more people about it, and making sure that everyone understands what it's doing. The numbers are beginning to grow, which is good. They're never going to be huge numbers because it's a fairly niche project at the end of the day. It's not Facebook, it's at the end of the day, it's a local thing for Haverhill young people. But I think the more she gets to speak about it, the better. I'm happy if Alicia wants to put that as an action point for me to invite her to the next meeting.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Colin, for that. Right, let's move on quickly on to item 8, which is grant applications. First of all, the Family History Group. Now, I'm going to declare an interest here because I am a member of the Family History Group, or the Suffolk Family History Society, not actually the Family History Group in Haverhill. They're just can't call it a subsidiary, but a group of. They're after £660. Could print off the thing, trying to save some paper. These are for exhibitions next year. You've just seen the one they've recently done. You've all seen the paperwork. So Councillor Marks first.
Are you looking for a proposer for this, John?
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to discuss it first. So, Brian,
I was absolutely, I've never been to one before. I was amazed. I thought the amount of work they did was absolutely astonishing. And, you know, it's not a subject that that has a great interest or appeal to me. But as a result of going there, you know, I've actually got my nephew to design a Christmas card from one of their painted pictures. So I was amazed at the information that they, so I absolutely support this. And I would, I will, forgotten what I'm looking for, the words now. Propose it, sorry.
Okay. Before you go on, I hadn't realised that Brian on our list was Brian Thompson, who is chair of the local branch. If that's the right word to use, Brian. Did you want to say anything before?
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to join you this evening. Yeah, thank you for your nice comments about the last exhibition. And you know, thank you for your support on that. It was a long time coming, obviously, due to COVID. Regarding the 2022, unusually, we're going to put on 2 exhibitions. One is to do with, obviously, with the celebration of the platinum anniversary for the Queen. Now, I'm not sure whether the funding, if you do give the funding, is going to come out of the town council or out of the funding for any celebrations that you're going to do during that period. But what we would like to do is put an exhibition on for the whole of June. And also we'll be in discussions with the history group in the Haverhill, and hopefully we'll have some artifacts in the history centre for people to go around and have a look at. And I'm pleased to say today I've had discussions with the trustees of the Suffolk Family History Society, as you quite rightly said, John, and they've agreed to help fund any school activities that we plan for that period of time, albeit we go into the schools or we invite them down to the Arts Centre to do some workshops. And then later in the year, we've got our normal October exhibition, which will be in the headlines. You've probably seen the report I sent. And hopefully that will be as interesting as the last exhibition. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Brian. I've got Councillor Liz Smith, then Dave Smith, Councillor Dave Smith, and then Councillor Tony Brown. Councillor Liz Smith first.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I was just trying to unmute. Yes, I just wanted to really reiterate what Councillor Marks has said. I went to the last exhibition they had, which was extremely interesting. As Margaret said, a lot of work had gone into it, and I fully support any application for what they're planning to do, as Brian discussed.
Is that a seconding Councillor Marx's proposal?
I will do, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Dave Smith.
Yeah, agree with all those previous comments. Just want a bit of clarity on the actual dates for in the headlines, because on your application it's got display between the 3rd of October and the 28th of August 2022. So I'm not. Should that be October?
That should be October. Then that's a mistake on my part, a typo. I'm sorry about that. I'll check that.
I think it's by me.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Tony Brown.
Yeah, 1000% happy to support this. Brian, Charmaine and the Family History Group, these fantastic stuff in the town. This small amount of money goes nowhere near the amount of time and hours and effort that they put into these projects. So yeah, absolutely 100% behind this. Yeah,
I think that's one of the reasons that Brian and Charmaine have been awarded the freedom of the town.
Yeah, well deserved. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Nobody else wants to speak, so we've got a proposal. Councillor Marks, seconder, Councillor Liz Smith. All those in favour, please show. Oh, I better not vote on the member of the thing. That's fine. Lovely. That's enough. Thank you. So, Councillor.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Colin.
Thank you. Just a very quick question for Brian before he leaves us. This is just me being boring. The funding is for the next financial year. Clearly, we're talking about funding from this financial year, and therefore it would suit the council if the answer to the question is yes. Do you need the money before the end of this financial year in order to make your plans and any purchases ahead of, because obviously May is only just into the new financial year?
Yes.
someone's just whispered in my ear, yes.
Good. Thank you very much. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I can't imagine who that is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, lovely.
Well, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome to carry on if you're staying if you want to. Right, Haverhill Arts Group. After £600 of grant money, again, you read the papers. I don't think there's any point putting them on screen. Any comments, please? Councillor Dave Smith.
Sorry, it's me being independent again. The application, the figure work on the application seemed to be a bit all over the place. Like the figures not adding up to the proper total and whatever. Am I being a bit pedantic, or anybody else?
Colin.
No, the figures on the application form itself are all over the place, but you'd have seen that accompanying application was a spreadsheet which I prepared for the art group, which made sense of the figures. So it all adds up in the end, just not necessarily in the usual manner.
Not necessarily in the right order.
Yeah, a bit more common wise, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I thought the application form was interspersed with all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Right. Any other comments? Proposer at all for this, please? Councillor Dave Smith, seconded Councillor Lucarini. All those in favour, please show. Lost me own hand. Oh, there it is. Lovely. Thank you very much. Sorry, sorry. You weren't asking a question, were you, Councillor Smith? Liz Smith? No, that's fine. Haverhill U3A would like £300. Any comments, please? I hasten to add I'm not a member, but I could be. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I've been along to a couple of their events. They do some fantastic stuff. You can learn a huge amount of different things, from music to anything you can imagine. I was quite astounded when I went along. So absolutely support what they're doing. I know this is for a meeting type thing, but it's great that they can get people there and hopefully encourage them to come along to what other events that they do.
Okay. Was that a proposal, by the way?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Liz Smith.
Yeah, I would like to second that, actually, because I was invited as mayor to the launch where they go and sign up to everything, the other week. And I met some fantastic people, and I didn't realise how big it was, especially in Haverhill. I'd heard of it, but not being quite of that age myself yet, I hadn't really got involved in any of it. But I've been given an honorary membership for a year, so perhaps I look that age. But anyway, it's only for anyone who's retired anyway, that's no longer working, so you don't have to be elderly, to be honest. But yeah, I thought I met some wonderful people, and it was fantastic to see the work they do. So I really support this, and will second that.
Lovely, thank you. Any other comments? No. So proposed by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Liz Smith. All those in favour, please show. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Item 8D for Delta Headway Suffolk. We have not yet received a satisfactory application form. I don't know whether Colin, did you want to say anything on that at all? Or?
No, you're absolutely right. We're awaiting a application form that's actually complete.
Okay, great. And item 8E is talking about the Panto earlier on, £775 for Reach to provide Panto tickets, if you like, in lieu. Basically, they organise things and we provide them to whoever they find up to that value. Any comments at all, please? No? Well, I'm going to propose that one, £775. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. What I was going to say is, if for some reason the Panto doesn't go ahead, or etc., is a mechanism that that money can be donated towards Reach for the Christmas fund for beneficiaries of the work that they do, something like that.
Colin, I'm not certain on that one.
That's not on the agenda to just give a donation. Although I'm quite sure if it was, it would be roundly supported. Of course, the reason this isn't a grant application per se is because us giving £735 worth of tickets to Panto costs the council, but it's not quite so straightforward, because of course we're not actually physically giving them the money to buy the tickets, we're simply giving them the tickets. So there isn't a direct mechanism to simply commute that into something else. But I'm sure if at the December meeting of the council we'll then know what's happened to Panto, then that would be something what I can do is put that as an agenda item in December, so that it's there so councillors can vote in that circumstance.
Right. Okay. I proposed it. Have we got a seconder, by the way? Councillor Marks. I'll just see a hand up there. All those in favour, please show. Right, lovely. Thank you very much. Right. Item number 9, date of next meeting. Oh, blimey, next year, 11th of January 2022. Got to survive Christmas first. And item 10, closure at 2040.